Here is one of a series of talks by spiritual leader Lola McDowell Lee, spanning 2 decades from the early 70s through the 90s. Lola was a Zen Roshi, whose Rinzai lineage included Dr. Henry Plutov and renowned Zen master Shigetsu Sasaki. Lola was a religious scholar as well as an ordained Christian minister. While the talks are focused mainly on Zen and Buddhism, Lola drew on many spiritual traditions, including those of Jesus, Plato, Lao Tzu, the Hindu Vedas, Meister Eckhart, and Gurdjieff.
Nanzen. He was a famous Chinese Zen master. And he was in the woods one day near the temple, cutting down trees with his huge axe. And a monk who had come from a distance to pay homage to this very famous teacher passed through the woods, and he came up to this woodcutter, and he said to him, "Is the abbot of Nanzen at home?" And the woodcutter replied to the monk, "I bought this axe for 2 pieces of copper." And then lifting up the axe and holding it, over the astonished monk's head, he added, "It's very sharp." So the monk fled in dismay, to discover later that the woodcutter was Nanzen himself. Now, this is an old Zen story. This world, I've just got through talking all about this world. This world to which we are so very much attached, this world, is very temporary for us. It's a temporary world. There is nothing permanent here. Everything changes all the time. Things are coming and going and moving, and, it's a process. It's a process of the whole thing. However, being as we are, we would like something permanent, something that we could call stable. We would like to have something like a nice solid rock under our feet, on which we could stand, or at least sit down once in a while. Yeah. And something, that would be in it that we could reach out and sort of touch, and it would guide us then through our pitfalls. So we search for this something which is permanent. And some people search in religion, and some people seek this stability and solidity in a relationship. Some people look for it in money. Some people look for it in power. So I think it behooves us every now and then to ask, what do you search for? What are you searching for? After all, we do know it's the ego that wants the security. So what are you searching for? And we live in this world a very conditioned life. Some of the conditioning, of course, we can't help. We have this. It conditions the thinking. It conditions the feelings, our sensations. And some of the conditions, of course, we place upon ourselves. For various reasons. Most of them pretty stupid. Now, let us say that we wanted to pass through this thing and come out smelling like a rose. Huh? You really want to come out the other end, with everything together, as the saying goes. Yeah? What would you look for? What then would you search for in this life? In all of this conditioning, what would you search for? Shall I tell you what? The unconditioned. That's simple, huh? You would look for an unconditioned state. Now, there is a condition to this unconditioned. Yeah? If you don't drop that ego, you can't enter the gate. You cannot take the conditions with you into the unconditioned. That you have to leave behind. You can come out and pick it up anytime you want to, but, sooner or later, preferably sooner, but sooner or later, we should come to the understanding that in our search for security and stability and solidity and whatever, that it is the ego that is searching. It is the ego searching for ego satisfaction. The ego is very involved in things and objects, and so, of course, it seeks for truth as an object. I'm going to find this object, either out there or in here, and it's going to be called truth, and then I will know the truth, and then I will be free. This is what we do to begin with. Well, what else are you going to do, being as we are? That's what we know, isn't it? It is a world of things and objects, including myself. I am object to myself. Yeah. But as meditation proceeds, and there comes a little maturity, and you look around, and you look at yourself, and you come to a little insight about yourself. And then comes the point, it's not so much then as to what you are seeking, but who is seeking? Who actually is seeking? What is seeking? Maybe the ego is just a cover-up for this that is seeking. And when the ego no longer covers up, who is seeking? When the ego no longer covers up, then you're going to find. Now, we know of instances here and there. There are those persons, people, because, that they are seeking, or because they think they are seeking. There's a difference, huh? Yeah. They get the impression about themselves that they're just a little bit better than the hoi polloi out there, than the rest. The other poor slobs who don't know what I know. So they set themselves up on a pedestal, as it were. Yeah. So they become very special people. In their own mind, they are extraordinary. I would like to invite them to Zen. Mm-hmm. Because Zen is just ordinary. And you know, there's no problem in being ordinary. None at all. Lots of problems when you're trying to be extraordinary. You know, I'm of the opinion, and I think this thought every now and then, that if some people, nobody here of course, we're always present company excluded, if somebody out there, if they for one split second could see what they are allowing the ego to do to them, to themselves, you know, they would be horrified. Just plain horrified. If they really could for one split second look. You know, they're thinking they're making a lot of progress, and their ego is, you know, all puffed up with pride, you know, like a big balloon. And not realizing that in the ego we have the seeds of misery and we have the seeds of anguish. And there are a lot of people that are very successful in sweeping all of this under the rug all their lives long. Yeah? And at the same time they say they're searching. So what have they accomplished? Once you begin to keep a wary eye out, you know, look at this ego. Keep an eye on it. Just keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. Then you're on your way to dropping it. You're paying attention. We suffer because of this ego. And we cling to it so. Why not just drop it? I mean, you know, if you get a splinter here in your hand, you go someplace and get rid of it. You know, it causes you problems. But you don't do that with the ego. No, you stroke it. Nice ego. Yeah. You know, the old Zen saying, you know, drop it. You know? And the teacher says, well, if you can't drop it, then pick it up. Huh? Just don't stand there with that look on your face. Yeah. Now, if you can drop, if you just pay attention to it and then drop it, then you're going to realize that the ego is a function and it's not a king sitting on a throne. You know, if you're in your house and the house suddenly catches on fire, you know, you don't stop and ask, well, what'll I gain if I run out? And stand there and hither and thither with the thing, huh? You leave without a second thought, you know. In fact, you probably run out without thinking. You think after the fact. Oh, I should have gotten this on my way out. I could have gotten that, you know. You know, some of the situations we go through, you know, it's like the house is on fire. We don't realize it. Well, what is the cause of your house being on fire? Well, it's the ego, isn't it? And what are you gaining from all of this? You just drop and become what you actually are. You become a nobody. That is an ordinary being. Yeah? And once you're ordinary, then the events happen. Yeah. So Zen is very ordinary. And it makes of people nobodies. Nobodies, you know. But oh, such nobodies. Have you seen them, you know? They, you know, like the Fusan that was here, you know, he walks around and enveloped in mind, and it's, right there. Walk around mindful. The extraordinary strength of the individual and the beauty of the individual in a nobody. No? This nobodiness is the most extraordinary phenomenon possible. That kind of extraordinariness, or that kind of ordinariness, is not achieved by acting extraordinary or thinking extraordinary. Quite on the contrary. Lao Tzu put it very well in his little book, the Tao Te Ching. Heaven endures and earth is lasting. And why can heaven and earth endure and be lasting? Because they do not live for themselves. Therefore, the holy man puts his person behind, and his person comes to the front. He surrenders his person, and his person is preserved. Is it not because he seeks not his own? For that reason he can accomplish his own. When are you ever behind? Behind in the rent, behind in time, and behind all that, but behind yourself. Huh? Why is that so difficult? Just to be everyday, ordinary? Why is that so difficult? What are you afraid you're going to miss? You're not going to miss anything. It's all waiting for you. All the misery. I guess you really like it. The Buddha brought his realization to the people of India. And the people of India didn't accept it very long. So Bodhidharma, seeing that it was fading, and having heard of a religion in China, he traveled there. And it is thought a great hardship. It took him 9 years to make the trip. Not easy. Not easy. But he could have gone to Ceylon. Some of the teaching had spread there, the Theravadan. He could have gone to Burma. He could have gone to Afghanistan. Yeah. Why China? Well, China at that moment, at that time, had just the right soil, right soil for the right seed. Lao Tzu and Chuang Tzu had spread a seed. They had created a particular atmosphere, living their ordinary lives. No show. There are lots of showy people now, very few nobodies. But anyway, this meeting of Buddhism and Taoism, out of which came Zen. The two streams, tremendously powerful, both utterly of the unknown, of the unthinkable. This union, the union, we would say, of love, they both fell in with each other, and there was no clashing. They complemented each other. And out of this union of Buddhism and Taoism came something very new and very different. Their child. Out of union comes child. And the child is Zen, which even today is not understood very much in this Western world. Not even so much in Japan, hardly, even though it's all based on it. But anyway, this child called Zen is what non-Zen is trying to show to this monk. And we also, Nanzen wasn't his real name. The monastery that he was abbot of was the Nanzenji, and so he took its name. That's how much of a nobody he was. Nobody even knew his name. No. Anyway, Nanzen, the famous Chinese Zen master, was in the woods one day near the temple, cutting down trees with a huge axe. We have these two aspects, Here he is out there with a big axe, chopping away. And then we have all these pictures and statues and everything of Buddha. Now, Buddha sat down under the tree. He didn't cut it down. He sat there. He sits silently with closed eyes. And so we have these pictures of inactivity, of passiveness, of quietness. That's India. How many pictures have you ever seen of a Zen master just sitting with closed eyes? Can you think of one? Hotai moved around with his bag of goodies, and Dalhuma came with his piercing eyes waiting to pounce, And we have Hyakujo's, a day of no work is a day of no eating. No eat if you don't work. No work, no eat. There is in living Zen this transcending of the concept of spirit and matter, shall we call it, or spirit and mind, or flesh and spirit, however you want to put it. There is the transcending of the thought, of the concept that we have, that they are two. To help us in this, we pay some attention to the application of the muscles of this body so that they become the servants of the mind, so to speak. So they work in a union with, so that it is all of one. It is not a two-ness. The attitude of the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak isn't going to do. Unless the hands are trained to do what the brain tells it to do, the result is a rather unsound condition of the body. We have this opposing thumb, and because of it we think. Our hands, extremely important. What you do with your hands. When you do something with your hands, pay attention. Pay attention. And if you really pay attention to, bear attention, finally you will be able to sing with the old Zen man, Hokoji, who said, "How wondrously marvelous and miraculous this, drawing water and carrying wood." Daito, he was the founder of Daitokoji in 1326. And Daitokoji is the mother temple of Myoshinji, and Myoshinji is the mother temple of 3,001 other temples all over the world. The one being Dr. Plotoff's, lately and lastly. Anyway, Daito said to his monks, "Oh, you monks who are here in this monastery, remember you are gathered for the sake of religion. Be ever mindful to apply yourself to the unthinkable." Is that a marvelous thing? Be ever mindful to apply yourself to the unthinkable. Time passes like an arrow. Ever, ever be on the lookout. Do not waste. Make the best possible use of things as they are given us. The intellect, the imagination, and all the other mental faculties, as well as the physical objects surrounding you, our own bodies not excepted, are given us for the unfolding of the highest powers, and not merely for the gratification of our individual whims, which are sure to conflict with the interests of others. Isn't that something? Beautiful man. To use this body within its limitations to the best use. To use the mind with its limitations to its best use. Do not waste your body. Do not waste your mind. So our lives then should be a balance between activity and inactivity. If you're overly active, out, and you miss something that is within. Huh? And if you are overly inactive, you miss something that is the use of this body. Yeah. We find ourselves in this Western culture. Yeah, that's where we find ourselves, huh? You don't find yourself someplace else. And you do find yourself, don't you? Yeah? We find ourselves with a kind of a drive for activity in this culture, yeah? And then we ask, well, what about this inner core of ourselves? In India, there has been a great deal of inactivity. They wait. They never mind about what's going on now. We wait for the next life. It'll be better. And if not that one, then the next one. And if not that one, then the next one. They're waiting, and waiting, and waiting. Shouldn't one ask once in a while, what about this one? This one right now. This is where you are. Somebody once wrote a little poem that ended with some words, and some of which I've made up, and some of it was for real. Anyway, the little phrase is, attend me now. I shall not pass this way again. Yep. So just don't sit there with your eyes closed, The misery isn't going to change that way. Do something about it. A Zen master, he meditates and then he goes out and he does. He does what he has to do. He may go out in the woods and cut trees because winter is coming and they need the firewood. He doesn't pretend that he's something special. Oh, look at my state of development, I can't go do this. You see a Zen monk doing something like that. No. It's like the little Roshi who one morning he's taking a walk and he comes upon a little snail and he picks it up and he sets it aside so it won't be stepped on, and he says, for this moment was I born. And that little statement takes a great deal of understanding. Don't just sit on the surface and say, well, he was a good man that didn't want to step on a snail, and so he saved the snail from death. Huh? By setting it to one side. That's not the answer to that. For this moment was I born. For this moment was I born. Yeah. And and non-Zen, we're talking about this morning, when he was very old, he was asked, how are you? Somebody came by and said, oh, how are you? How are you? Well, we say, well, I'm fine. I'm not so fine. He said, perfect. Cutting wood, carrying water, preparing food, working in the garden, perfect. And no ego there. Tall, not tall. Devil of a thing, huh? This ego. Somewhere along the line, it may be a title of a book or it's a phrase somewhere, maybe you can help me remember, because I have forgotten. It's this little phrase, the light and the crucible. I think it's a title to a book, The Light and the Crucible. Well, anyway, taking off from there, a crucible is a container. It's a cup. Now, the light is everywhere. We look outside and it's light, and we can say that the everlasting light is equally present everywhere. We live in the light. But unless you have a container, how will you really glimpse that everlasting light? Electricity is everywhere. But for you to see it, we've got light bulbs. Yeah. The ancient Gnostics, they spoke of a cup. A cup. Which is part of their baptism of rebirth. The cup. The Kabbalists also, I think, they speak of a cup. Now, you are that cup. You are a container, a cup, in which the light and the dark form a union, and out of that union comes the child, which I think we called last week the child of eternal significance. The cup in which the rebirth takes place. And we have heard it called the Holy Grail. These are symbols. The cup when Jesus was on the cross, and they gave him to drink that cup. So there comes the search for the Holy Grail. All this symbolism. Knights running around England and Europe looking for a cup, coming home and finding the beggar at the doorstep. The cup is the container of this light. And so we find David, singing, "My cup runneth over." And don't sit on the surface with that. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I know the cup, and my cup runneth over. It's all over the place. All you have to do is look. Yeah? Have you ever paid attention, that is correct attention, to this cup? Bare attention, it is called. Yeah. Bare attention is a step in the direction of mindfulness. Yeah. And I'm going to quote, and I don't know who I'm quoting again. But anyway, in the clear, single-minded awareness of what actually happens to us and in us at successive moments of perception. Bare attention. Yeah. It is called bare, B-A-R-E. not B-E-A-R, B-A-R-E, bare attention. Yeah? Because it attends to just the bare facts without reacting to them. For reactions are usually of self-reference. Yeah. If any comments do arise, they themselves are made objects of bare attention and are neither rejected nor pursued. Bare attention. In the clear and single-minded awareness of what actually happens to us and in us. That's a big step, huh? Yeah. No. The practice of attention in meditation. The practice of meditation with the body. The body meditates also. The practice of meditation with the body. You don't sit down and then with the thinking, you know. Oh, I'm going to reach it today. I know. I feel pretty good. I'm tired. Nothing today. All right. The practice of meditation with the body. This is the ground floor. This is where it all stems from. You know, you handle a dish. You put some lemons in a dish, or apples, or oranges, or whatever, bananas. You put them in a dish. Yeah? Doing it with attention. Yeah? Then something in that attention rises. It's a kind of a knowingness that rises in this attention. And though you have never said I, you don't say, I'm putting lemons in a dish, I'm putting bananas in a dish, I am holding a dish. None of that. You're just doing it. And you never said I in this attention. Because you never said I, you shine through like the sun. See, that's what Lao Tzu means, you know. You put the person behind and the person comes to the front. You shine through like the sun because you didn't say I. Be nice to act in this kind of mindfulness, huh? No demands from the ego I. And then if there are no demands, then there are no rejections from this ego I. And there would be a silent mindfulness. Non-Zen, he carries water. He's silent carrying water. You know? The mind isn't filled with, oh, I am carrying water, look how good I am at my age. And non-Zen cutting wood is silent cutting wood. Not, you know, oh, poor me, look what I have to do. You know, at my age, I still have to chop wood. Nothing like that. Just attention to what he's doing and a silent doing. It's mindful. When the actor and the action are one, there's unity. And then there's peace. And then you move from act to act to act without accumulating identifications. You move from one to the other in a silence, in an emptiness. And when you're doing that, you will suddenly realize that nature is sharing her secrets with you. And that's about as best we can put it, huh? Because in this silence, you are capable of seeing. You're capable of touching these secrets. Now, you have two wings. Usually we only have one. We are either active or we are silent. One wing isn't enough. You're going to flutter a little bit here and flutter a little bit there, and there you go, flopping along. It's a difference, No. Anyway, Nanzen is cutting wood near the temple, and a monk came from a distance to pay homage. And he came up to this woodcutter and said, "Is the abbot of Nanzen at home?" Well, it's very possible, very probable, that it is difficult to recognize a master who is cutting wood. Very easy to recognize a master sitting on a cushion telling the world that he is a master. Yeah. You know, there's a story there about a guru, a Baba, in India, and he had a disciple. And the disciple would come every day to the Baba. And only when this master had eaten his food, could he eat his own food. And when the master had not eaten, how could he eat? He couldn't, he's got to wait. This is protocol. But this Baba, this guru, was very irregular. Sometimes he ate in the morning, sometimes he ate late at night, so this poor disciple, he just had to wait. So one day, the Baba noticing this, one day he said to the disciple, "You don't need to bother about this. You're a real disciple, so I will come to you. Yep. Whenever your food is ready, I will come. After all, you have to come all these 5 miles here, and you have 5 miles to go back. Now I will do this. You're a real disciple." Oh, and the disciple was so happy. Oh, man, huh? Because the master cared so much for him. And he returned home along the road, and he's bouncing and he's dancing, and he's, how great the world is. He had been recognized. But somehow in the back of his mind, like a little mouse gnawing, he remembered the admonition of his teacher's last words. Remember to recognize. And he says, "Well, that's no problem. I know my teacher." That's a dirty laugh. The next morning, this disciple is still so happy he's just beside himself. He did his worship and he prepared his food and he got everything all ready, and then he sat down and he waited. And he waited and he waited. And after a while, a beggar came by. He was a wood gatherer, and he had this big bundle of twigs, and he came in and he wanted to trade some of the twigs for food, And the disciple chased him away. He couldn't be bothered with a wood gatherer today. His teacher was coming. So he sat down again to wait, and he waited and he waited and he waited and he waited. And in the evening, finally, he ran the 5 miles to the teacher's home. "Baba, have you forgotten? I've been waiting and waiting. Baba, you forgot me." "No, I have not forgotten. I came, but you chased me out." "Huh? But that was a wood gatherer." And to which the Baba replied, "If you recognized me, you would have recognized me in any form. If you recognize the light, the shape of the lamp is of no consequence. Is the shape of the lamp so important? And this is the case, of course, with this monk coming to pay homage to Nanzen. He didn't recognize him. He was a woodcutter instead of what he thought a Roshi should be. See, this is a tremendous stumbling block, what we think something should be. So, and the woodcutter just says to him, I bought this axe for 2 pieces of copper. Now he is showing to this monk, he is showing him the quality of being at home. He tried to bring this monk to this moment, which is home. And at this moment he's cutting wood. What else? See? Don't allow the mind to wander. Don't go anywhere. You be at home. Pay attention. This moment, is enough. Boy, this moment is all there is. How we are, though, it's like the people, there was a little village, and the people, went to this church, and the minister got old, and so they fired him. And they hired a young one. Yeah? And for the first Sunday, he was going to give this sermon, and everybody turned out for it. And so after it was over, a visitor asked, who had been staying there for a couple of weeks, asked, so what's the difference between the two? He said, the old one, I heard of him say, he said, you mend your ways, otherwise you go to hell. And what this one said this morning was, you mend your ways or you go to hell. And so the person he was asking answered, well, yes, but the old one always acted as if he would be glad if we went to hell. Mend your ways. Anyway, this particular disciple was a little thick. This monk who was questioning non-Zen. Yeah? For this axe, I paid 2 pieces of copper. And he holds it over his head and says, and it is very sharp. And this poor guy runs away. If he had just remained that moment without trying to escape, then he would have known mindfulness. In such a moment, not escaping. One escapes the mind activities, but not the mind. When the activities disappear, then you're mindful. And he missed. And then, of course, comes the agony. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should not. I should not, But what can you do about the past? You can't go back, and you can't undo. There's not one thing you can do about the past. I mean, even if he went back to non-Zen and said, gee, I'm sorry I ran away, would he have brought back that moment? No. So you learn to live in this moment, making the best of this moment, because it will never come again. And in this moment, you use your body. In this moment, you use your mind. In this moment, you pay attention. In this moment, you are mindful. And you can't come to this moment all prepared, all polished up. Now I'm going to meet this moment. Yeah. That's one of our problems. This is what we think we must do. We've got to be educated for it. Everything has got to be in order. We want to be nice and neat and orderly and come to this moment. Well, if this is what you're doing, I've got to get this straightened out first. Otherwise, how can I meet? I got to get this straightened out. Well, I got to get this straightened out. I won't be worthy unless I can straighten all these things out. Well, all these things are just your conditionings. You're seeing and you're smelling and you're tasting and you're touching. What are you going to straighten out with it? You're going to straighten it out, you won't be here. Then what are you going to do? No. See? So, I might suggest that you look at your thinking again. How you think about it. Look at your thinking again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and then some more. Yeah? So, non-Zen, bringing this monk to this moment of unpreparedness, to break the hold of this clinging mind. The activities of your mind, if you watch it, you see it right away. It clings to anything and everything, just to cling to something. To what is it going to cling when you draw your last breath? So the old adage that is around, is before death overtakes you, you overtake death. Yeah? Waiting, you're just going to be a victim. Going through the process, you're going to be the victor. And when you are the victor, when you have become the conqueror, then you will know that there is no death. No? There's only form and formless. That's simple. There is form and formless. And formlessness is form, and form is formlessness. That's what you sing every Monday and Thursday. No. We may disappear, but there is a being. There is a being which was since the beginningless beginning, before all the mind activities. That remains. That you must know. Okay. And now may the peace and the power that passeth all understanding hold us and keep us in the love of the Christed consciousness while we are seemingly separate one from another. And I do thank you very much.
If you find Lola's talks valuable, more will be posted in weeks to come.